Hello, you guys, and welcome back to Hola Soy Linda's channel / podcast. Today I'm here with my sisters joining me.
My name is Iris, Linda's younger sister.
Hi, I'm Zuli, the oldest.
All three of us are Oaxaqueñas. Both of our parents are from Oaxaca, Mexico. Our dad is from Tlacochahuaya. Our mom is from, we're not saying where because we want to keep that private. But I wanted to do this podcast because I just want to showcase how beautiful Oaxaca is. And I have my sisters here with me. And I just want to talk about that.
Yes.
All right.
I did want to say that there's like this stereotype about Oaxaqueños or Oaxaqueñas that we're all short, brown. There's like this negative stigma and connotation to it that we're like ugly or not as like
European beauty standards.
As other places such as like whatever, I'm not gonna say names, but so we're very indigenous and we're very Mexican looking, how they would say, but I don't think in any way, shape, or form that that's wrong or like incorrect thing. So
and yes, we're just embracing where we come from, because like my sister said, we've had those rudely encounters of like people telling us like, oh, well, you don't look Oaxaqueño, and you're just like, well, what does that mean? And then they're like, oh, well, it's just and then that's when we're like we're beautiful, whatever, but whatever.
We don't say this in any like in an egotistic way or like to be narcissistic, but
to be disrespectful.
We've grown to know that we are beautiful in our color, in our hair, in
our size,
in our size, and just like be unapologetic about it. So
because all three of us, even though we're sisters, we all look different. We're all different shades of browns. Our body types are all very different, and we still have that self-love towards ourselves, and we just want to,
And each other.
yeah, of course, we just want to show that to the world and be like, this is what Oaxaca is, and this is how beautiful it is. And so my experience of being Oaxaqueña in LA is just so much culture. You begin to realize how many Oaxaqueños there is in LA. I believe we have a very large population of indigenous people from Oaxaca in LA. So you just grow that sense of community, because my mom put us in folklore at such a young age. So we got to meet a lot of different people. We got to grow up with these kids, and now we're all adults, and it's just amazing to feel that you know so many people that know where you come from, that know your culture, and you could just be yourself around them. Because I remember going to school and I would have to hide that because people wouldn't understand, or people just be like, oh, you look like a India, and I always had to hide that except for my two friends. But when I was around my comunidad oaxaqueña, like we were all in it together, and there was never that like stereotype towards us. We just all had love for each other.
I said this last time that we were having the conversation, the story. So like it's not only about being a Oaxaqueña in LA, it's also about being Oaxaqueña and carrying that everywhere you go. So I studied in Merced, which is by Fresno, Bakersfield, so it's like 4 or 5 hours depending on traffic. But it's like being Oaxaqueña and then going into these higher institutions and holding your ground to who you are. I was telling my sister a story last time that it was like we were in this biology lab and these kids were like bashing each other and kind of clowning each other. And keep in mind, Merced is 60% Latinos, and he said to his like the person that he was like bashing, he was like, oh yeah, well you look like a Oaxaqueño, like as an insult. And I was on the table like behind them, and it like stuck with me. And then when we went to as we were going back to the buses, because I used to take the bus back home, the school bus to my house, one of the kids that was on the table also got on that bus, and I asked him, I was like, oh, like what did you mean by, oh, he looks Oaxaqueño, which he wasn't. He just said it as an insult. He was like, oh, because you know Oaxaqueños are like brown and short and like ugly, and it just like it kind of shocks you because you're supposed to be in this higher institution where people are like more conscious of with their words and
educated.
Yeah, so it was just crazy. But it's also like the point I'm trying to make is like not just being Oaxaqueñas in LA, but being Oaxaqueñas wherever we go. Yeah.
I think we need to represent that super loud and proud. And it's just not, it like touching that point that my sister said, it's just not people that are not from Mexico. It could be your own Oaxaqueños that be discriminating you.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've ran into a few of them that have also told me like, well, you don't look Oaxaqueña. And I'm like, yo, we're brother and sister. Like, how are you going to insult one another when we come from the same place?
But there is that negative stigma that, or that word India, that people often misuse. And even if they're educated, you know, sometimes yo digo, oh, la falta de educación, pero obviously, maybe just said something where they're at a 4-year university and they're still saying stuff like that. So that just goes to show that even if you're in school or whatever it is, like, you know, if you're ignorant, you're ignorant. But just to be aware of how you treat others. And Bibi, did you tell him that you were from Oaxaca? Yeah. And what did he say?
Nothing. He was just on the table. He didn't say that comment. So but I think he caught on as to how like ignorant they sounded. Yeah, like as a group, he was like, oh man. But I was just like,
even fell in love.
I actually have him on Instagram.
Well, actually,
who is he? I'm just
That's
kidding.
Funny. And I think just like carrying that pride of being from Oaxaca is also because it's such a little state, but we have so many different types of indigenous people in Oaxaca.
So I wanted to ask you, how do you manage being a first generation Mexican Oaxaqueña?
I think my experience has been at the beginning, like I said, for sure middle school was very like denying it, not like, oh, I have nothing to do with that, and hiding it. And then towards the end of high school and until now, it's been very like, well, this is who I am and you guys are gonna like it or not. It's just difficult being in middle school because I see it in Sebas too, like dancing Danza Azteca, and he sometimes doesn't want to tell his friends that. And I get it because I have been there, because there is that like negative stigma of being still connected to your roots.
Just middle school is hard.
Yeah, middle school is just such a weird age. But now it's just like, I think because we're getting older, we're entering that chapter of womanhood, and we're just very confident with who we are and who we represent and what we carry and where our ancestors come from. I think it's very important for me to continue to stay true to myself within my culture so I could pass it down to the future generations that are going to come after me.
Well, not so much like being Oaxaca first generation. Like Linda mentioned, it was a struggle during like middle school and high school because other people don't understand you. But eventually, you know, we did embrace it, and I'm proud of that, and I'm proud to pass it on to my son Jacobo. He's obviously born here. Both parents are born here, but still, he is 100% Oaxaqueño on both sides. And just to take him back home to Oaxaca and teach him the culture and the family and how everything is, I think that's very rewarding because he actually liked it. But I think the struggle I had being first generation was that my parents didn't speak any English when they first came to this country, so I didn't learn English until I was maybe 6 or 7. So that was probably one of the biggest struggle. I mean, I'm okay now, but
especially since you're like the oldest.
Yeah, I'm the oldest.
I was gonna say that because I don't feel like I went through a lot because I already had Zuli, and like my parents had already like kind of got the hang of things, and you know, like Zuli just took care of me, so I didn't really go through that like, I don't know what's like going on.
No, you know what's funny? Like, you spoke so funny when you were little, and nobody would seem to understand, but I would understand you. The Kukula Matala. And then mom would be like, the few memories that I do have of my childhood are those. Me translating that to mom. Like, no, mom, quiere película de los Dálmatas. Oh, okay. But yeah, your Spanish was rough.
So having language barrier was something difficult for both of us.
Yes. It started to change because then I started to learn English, and I spoke English to you, and then I had to learn Spanish, but yeah, we figured it out.
That's funny. Mine is actually the opposite. I feel like since I am the third child, and I had you guys too, mine is like now I'm starting to realize like, oh, like my Spanish is not the best, and also I like, you know, I went to school, and then I feel like
you have a whole different struggle.
Yeah, so I feel like sometimes I have identity crisis where I talked to my coworker, Mr. Garcia, about this, where we feel like we're Americanized, but then it's just like I'm not like Mexican enough because, you know, I talk a certain way, I eat a certain way, and then and then like being American and then still being a little bit too Mexican because so
even
it's
like
the movie that scene in Selena.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. Like I'm too Mexican for the Americans and too American for the Mexicans, and
and even within our own family, they tell her like, "Oh, Vivi come como una gringa," because she's vegetarian. But it's like, what does that really mean? And I think you went through a whole different struggle being a first generation that went into a higher institution, university, because that's a whole different ball game of like applying and like financial aid, and no one was really there to help you to do that.
And then like you don't really understand what you're doing until you're there, and you're like, what's going on?
What did I do?
What am I doing? And then I feel like that's why I struggle. I mean, I relate much more to like Allison, because she's also in the same situation where she's like, you know, she's in school, she's, you know, she's also vegetarian.
That's so cute.
And you kind of go to school and you're just like, oh, like there's a whole other world besides, you know, like our house. And then, like when you live with other people, and I don't know, it's just weird. So I've always, like, I feel like now it's the weirdest identity crisis ever, that we're just like, okay, like sometimes I want to be like the most Latina with my hoop earrings and, you know, just have the nopal in my frente, but then other days I want to, you know, just wear like a pink little purse and just like act like Paris Hilton. So it's just like, I don't know, I have my moments where I'm just like, I don't know, I'm stuck in between. But
and I think for me, identity crisis is like the other way. Like I tend to feel more beautiful in blusas típicas and ropa tradicional rather than like modern clothes. In modern clothes, I tend to feel outside the box. I tend to feel like I'm not actually like myself. And then when I have like ropa típica, I'm just like, oh, like, hey. Like, but we're all just so different. Like, it's really cool growing up with like an older sister and a younger sister that both have two very different personalities and just represent being Oaxaqueñas in so many different ways. Like, and Oaxaqueños have very good reputations of being like artistic, musically gifted, intelligent, and I think all three of us, a combination, have that. Like my sister, she went to a higher institution, she graduated with a bio major. So that just shows like how intelligent Oaxaqueños go. I'm a little bit more on the musical, like creative, danza, artistic side, and then Zuli is a mix of everything. Zuli is just like freaking like intelligent. Since I could remember, like she was always so good at math, like just good with numbers, like back to back. And when we did folklore, like she murdered all of us, just like
funny. Actually, I have a story. Eileen's dad, my best friend, her dad, they're from Salvador, and he was like, oh yeah, I don't know why they were talking about Oaxaqueños. He was like, sí, yo escuché que la gente de Oaxaca son bien inteligentes. And he was like, oh, sabes que Iris, because he knows me, Iris is Oaxaqueña. And then she told him, oh, like she studied in human biology. She was like, ya ves? And they're like from Salvador, and it's just like, he knows them because I think he works with them like in construction. So it's just like we're like scattered all over, and we're just so diverse.
Like we do everything.
So when I was working with Linda, she was like, you know, what's her name is from Oaxaca, and the other guy. And then when I started working there, it was 4 Oaxacos
in the office. Yeah, straight up
in Beverly Hills.
Like, hey, we're here.
Right.
But it's just so cool. And then like all of our friends that we did folklore with, like I see them on their Instagram and ya tienen their bachelors, their masters, their PhDs, and I'm just like, damn, like I didn't choose that route, but just because I didn't choose that route, that doesn't mean I get to like admire people that did, you know, like I'm
almost
just like, damn,
all of the
like,
people that we danced folklore with, the mulattos,
Jenny, she
got her dentist,
yeah,
and It makes me all proud.
And like we said, these are all first generation.
Almost all
so
of us. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Like our parents just put us all together in one, and then we just all grew up together, and it's just beautiful.
But you know what? I think that was a big part for a lot of us. You know, it just kept us busy, like you said, in our own little community. And I think Oaxaqueños, no, I don't think, I know. Oaxaqueños are very big on family. We're very family oriented.
Yes.
Like, it's family first, like, almost
Family
always.
over everything.
And I think that, you know, that helped us out in the long run.
And that's a really good point that you hit. Like, involving us in our culture in such a young age had to do everything with how we are now. Because I believe that if my mom didn't put us in folklore, we wouldn't be as culturally enriched as we are now. And we wouldn't know so much stuff about like different regiones, and this vestuario belongs to this region and this belongs to this, and you wear this a certain way. So you just like, you get all this cultural knowledge at such a young age, and you just have it forever.
I was gonna say we also wouldn't have any rhythm.
For real! We
That's how I learned
wouldn't.
how to use high heels too.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
He learns how to zapatear. You'd be like, "Bo, let's go."
That's
So
funny. Yeah, we danced for a long time.
I think we danced
for like
for about-
10 years.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Mhm.
Bibi was like 5 when she started. I wish we could just like go back and like trace down like how far like our family goes, or I wish that our grandparents would have taught us Zapoteco, or at least my dad, because my dad speaks 3 languages, you guys. My dad speaks Zapoteco, he speaks English, and he speaks Spanish.
He's fluent.
He's
in
very
all three.
fluent, yeah. So I just wish, like, I think that's one thing that I wish they would have passed on to us, is the language.
And no matter like, we do try to learn it. We
It's
have
hard.
videos, but it's so hard. Like, it's not like learning Spanish or English. Like, their accent and their pronunciation is so specific, and it's so indigenous that you could tell right away that it's not like, I want to learn French, you know? Like,
Yeah.
And it's like there's no documentation where we could just open a book and be like, okay, let's learn this.
You know what? There's actually somebody from La Sierra. They speak Zapoteco in La Sierra too. Pero siento que está un poco más confuso que el que habla like grandma and stuff. But there's somebody that's actually writing it out and giving lessons so that the language doesn't die. You know, when I did go to La Sierra, one thing that I really admired was how they're very big on holding on to their culture, their tradition, and their language. I remember seeing a young girl, maybe like 5 or 6, with her little brother or sister, apenas si caminaba, and she was already speaking Zapoteco herself.
Damn.
And she was teaching
That's so
the
beautiful.
sibling
Oh, that's crazy.
at that young age. And you know, she already was fluent in Spanish because that's what they're learning first and at school, but at home they're still teaching them
Oh, that's so
Zapoteco.
good. That's
cool.
And it's what, like, I went 2 years ago, I think, or 3 years ago, so it's still, you know, pretty fresh. So I do like that. I feel like in Los Valles Centrales, you know, because it's a little bit closer to the city, they're starting to it sucks to say, I guess,
Yeah.
lose it a little bit, but
Yeah.
I think
And then
we
it's
should.
hard to learn too, because so it begins to change each pueblo. It's not like, oh, this is just the way it is and everybody learns it this way. No, like each pueblo has their own different type of Zapoteco dialecto in there. So that's when it makes it even harder, because like, so my grandpa and my grandma, they wouldn't be able to understand each other.
They
Right.
would understand each other,
Barely.
just barely,
Yeah.
because their language is different. Like a topic that has to be brought up about being like Oaxaqueña in LA, because although we are Oaxaqueñas and we do speak Spanish, we also speak English, and our kids are, you know, no matter how you try, at the end of the day, if you decide to raise them here, English is gonna be their first language. And I think like it's always looked down upon. I feel like it's always kind of talked down, like, oh, like you need to teach your kids Spanish or more often or whatever. But like it's also hard. Like I don't have kids, but I feel like it would be so hard for me to speak Spanish 24/7 to my kids, or you know, whatever it is.
I feel like people give me crap about that.
Yeah, I
about
feel
Jacob
like-
not
yeah.
being fluent in Spanish.
Yeah.
I'm like, he understands, but
Yeah.
and I think it'll come with time too. Like, her Spanish was horrible. Your Spanish wasn't the best either, but it's improving. So I think that's, you know, like at the end of the day, we're still bilingual. Like, we still
Yeah.
understand. Jacob still understands, but, you know, not to go too far, but, like, Toño, he's always on my case. He's like, you need to speak Spanish to him.
Which is kind of funny because the people that be throwing it in your face that your kids don't speak Spanish, their kids don't speak Spanish. So it's just funny. Like, we just need to be more loving and accepting towards one another. Because each generation is going to be different. So my mom's generation went through a whole different experience with our generation. And then our kids' generation is going to go through a whole different experience. And it's just going to continue going like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I really feel like we have to be more open-minded about it and be kind of realistic about it. Like, yes, of course, you know, when the time comes for us to have kids, I would love to teach them Spanish first, but
it's hard.
It's hard, yeah.
Like, even just speaking Spanish between us is hard.
Yeah. Because, like, you know, we have nieces and nephews. Like, my sister's son and then my cousin's daughter, they only talk English, but they understand Spanish, and it's like they, you know, like Zuli said, they get crap for it, and I feel like it's unfair because at the end of the day, they still take them to Oaxaca during the summers, and they're trying their best to incorporate our culture as much as possible to a second generation child, which I think is rare to begin with.
What's crazy is that every time the kids go, like, they usually go 2 weeks to a month, and in that span that they go, they come back con acentito y todo. Yeah. But
like, quiero comer.
Right.
When we would go for a month, we would come back.
His Spanish was so rough, and then he went. What was that? A few years ago, and then he came back just speaking full on Spanish.
Yeah. That's funny.
So I think they learned it along the way.
And he's like three. You know, he's a fourth child. Like, he would think his Spanish is the worst.
That's so funny.
That is.
Quiero comer. I'm glad that Grandpa installed in us that it was okay to be from Oaxaca. It was okay to be brown. It was okay to be indigenous. And our grandpa was actually very, very dark and had like curly hair.
He looks Afro-Latino.
Yeah, he does. Versus Grandma's more light skin, really dark hair. So I think we have a little bit of both. But the point is that, you know, they did install in us like our traditions and our culture, and they didn't shy away from that. They didn't, you know, for people that didn't have education, they didn't even go to middle school. They were embarrassed. They weren't embarrassed to teach us where they come from, where they lived, you know. And I think that the more you know about where you come from, the more you know who you are. And I really, really think that that's true. Yeah. Earlier, Linda said that she feels more beautiful in blusas típicas. When I put it on, it just feels right sometimes. Like, I don't wear them as often as Linda does, but when I do, I put my earrings on, or like they braid my hair. It just feels right. It's a different sense. I can't really explain it, but it feels like me. It feels like you.
Yeah.
It's like a form of identity.
Like, kind of like going off of that, I feel like even though that's the positive about, like, you know, owning it and then feeling like yourself in shirts and stuff, you did say that our grandpa is, you know, more dark skinned, and our cousin, I'm not gonna say her name, but she did inherit that really dark complexion from my grandpa. But I feel like it's kind of the opposite for her, where she somehow along the way she struggled, and she kind of is like not the proudest about her skin color, and it's like, where does she learn this like self-hate from, where we think that like her skin is so beautiful, but at the end of the day it doesn't matter what we think and how we tell her until you know, she's like kind of old enough to be more comfortable in her skin. But it's just like, where is she learning that from? You know, who told her her dark complexion is not beautiful? And I feel like it's not just her, it's so many other, and she's only half Oaxaqueña, but she like inherited that from our Oaxaqueña side. She's like half and half. She's half Guatemalteca and half Oaxaqueña Mexican. And I feel like if she's struggling with that, how many others are struggling with that? But I think it's a slow process that only she could learn to love herself, and no matter how many times we tell her you're beautiful or whatever. I think, and if you're struggling with that, I feel like you need to
I think if you're struggling with that, it's always good to go back and learn
Yeah.
your ancestors, because I think once you learn that history of your ancestors and you really get deep into it and you realize how much they went through in order for you to be here where you are, I think that's when you start to get a little bit of that self-love and a little bit of that self-confidence of like, damn, like it feels empowering to have all that knowledge, because then you're like, damn, like I am a product of that. Like my ancestors survived all that, so I could be proudly brown and walk around the street with anybody, and somebody could call me ugly and I'll still be like,
I think it also comes with age. I think that the older you get, the more you start to embrace like your features and, you know, the color of your skin, your hair. I don't know. I really think, you know, when you mature, you start to appreciate yourself more and love yourself a little bit more than when you're younger in college and, you know, LA. It'll come. I know it will, but when I see her, I'm like, you know, like
she's so beautiful. And
not that I don't love my skin color,
but it's
but
crazy
her
though,
skin color is so beautiful to
me. Like at the end of the day, we can never understand what she's going through. You know, especially like Suli said, we're in LA where there's like unrealistic beauty standards. So yeah,
I agree. I think now with social media being so big, there's this big pressure that you have to look a certain way, that you have to do your hair a certain way or alter your image. And, you know, I mean, I'm all for doing whatever makes you happy and makes you feel confident, but it's also very, very, like...
toxic.
Yeah, I feel like it comes with a toxic thing. Like, it's just unrealistic, like Bibi said.
It's European beauty standards at the end of the day. Like, and then I think just... Also, if like, you know, people are having that, like they're just not feeling insecure about their own skin color, I don't think we should be judging people either. Like, whoa, don't you know that you should be loving yourself, you know, like, because that just harms people. At the end
we
of
all
the
have
day.
our own
There is people out there that, like, if people are feeling a certain way, like they will like bash on them because they feel that certain way, and it's like, no, on the contrary, like, let them take that healing path to the point of where, like,
they release
like,
who knows me best.
Okay, so we're gonna do a list of Oaxaca questions. These are my favorites. So if my sisters, let's see who knows me best. Okay. Okay. Do I like? Oh shit. Okay. Sorry. Do I like clayudas more, or do I like empanadas de amarillo more?
Empanadas de amarillo.
I say clayudas.
Actually, I don't even know that question. I feel.
Why are you gonna ask us a dumbass question?
Okay. No. Horchata or agua de limón?
Horchata. Any day, we know that.
Okay. Nieve de limón or nieve de leche quemada?
Nieve de limón.
Limón.
What?
Yes.
Did that change?
No, I love leche quemada, don't get me wrong, but limón just makes me feel refreshed, and I love that, like, refreshed feeling, like, oh, okay, like I drank a water, you know, like.
You know what? I do like limón, nieve de limón, but it's not like
leche quemada con tuna.
I only like leche quemada con tuna. I can't do it by itself.
I'll do leche quemada by itself.
Yeah,
it's too heavy.
Leche quemada.
Yeah. I'm also lactose, so cool, you know.
We're lactose.
Okay, next question. Would I rather put a traje de Istmo on, or would I rather put a traje de Tustepec?
Istmo.
Damn, I feel like you really like the Tuxtepec ones. But I would choose Istmo.
Yeah, I would choose Istmo.
Like this, one of the prettiest.
Yeah, it's just, it makes me feel so, like, oh,
elegant.
Yeah.
I would.
Okay. And strong. Like, so mujeres from El Istmo are known for being very strong mujeres. Like, they're the ones that rule. My light gave out. Okay, that's it, y'all. So we're gonna have to cut this vlog/podcast short. I'm very happy that you guys sat here and listen to us. Remember to like, subscribe, and share my YouTube channel. Right now I'm at 323 subscribers, so when I get to 350 I will be doing a giveaway. So make sure you like, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and comment on this podcast below, and you will be entered automatically to win a Oaxaca blouse.
Hey.
Bye.